Welcome to the Bigger Boat Podcast. We're the movie podcast. We're talking about Steven Spielberg's back catalogue. We are at episode 9.
Yeah.
And it's 1985, the year of Live Aid, Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
The Nez.
The year before we were born.
Yeah, the year our parents started to get a little bit frisky. And also The Colour Purple was released, which is the movie we're going to be talking about today. I'm Luke, and you've already heard him. You're joined by my friend, an esteemed winner in the Sheet Film Festival in 2016 for his short film, Scared Sheetless.
Correct.
Very clever. See what you did there?
Thank you very much. Do you know where I stole
Humour.
Do you know where I stole that title from?
Some comedy god, because it's just hilarious. I don't know.
It honestly was a title that was pitched to the studio when Tim Burton was trying to sell Beetlejuice. He said another possible title is Scared Sheetless.
Because of ghosts.
Because of ghosts, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a comedy ghost film, isn't it, essentially? Because the two people in the house are ghosts.
Beetlejuice is so much better.
I won, didn't I?
Yeah. Did you have much stiff competition?
Yes. Let's move on.
Was it like from a 4-year-old?
Let's move on.
Okay, carry on. Can we post that on Twitter, the film?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, alright, okay.
I don't see why not.
See what you think.
Yeah.
I will give you money if it gets more than 2 likes.
You're on.
Okay, fine. Right, how are you anyway?
I'm literally trying to think, do I have 2 friends that already have Twitter accounts? I'm good, thank you.
How's your week been?
Good, it seems to have just absolutely flown by. It's been really busy. Work-wise, I've just been editing our previous episode.
Yeah, difficult because of all the great content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As well you know, the listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been okay. Like I've told you before, busy at work. I found actually I wanted to talk to you about this. So I found out someone mentioned to me the other day that my glasses were on all wonky, and I had to go to like Vision Express to get them sort of straightened out.
Oh really?
And then I look back at previous photos. They've been like that for a year.
Oh really? I haven't noticed.
My glasses have sort of been at an angle, and I've looked like this librarian who's just like become dishevelled in a closet and stumbled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I've had my glasses straight, which is why I'm looking so good today. Thanks for noticing. Yeah,
cool.
But a year of looking completely ridiculous at work, in the park, walking about the street. So that's been frustrating. What else has happened? Also, I've become slightly obsessed based on, mentioning another podcast here, the Empire podcast.
Yes.
They mentioned this trivia app called HQ. Have I told you about HQ?
HQ, yeah, it's it comes through every day or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, a live trivia game where you can win £1,000 if you answer 12 questions correctly.
It's funded by advertising, isn't it? So you don't even have to pay to enter, do you?
No, it's all free to enter. And I've become slightly addicted to that.
Yes, I know a few people that are.
I've got to sort of step outside the office, at 3 o'clock every day just to sort of just go check something in a place with better signal. So
you realise we're being recorded. They know now.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not like I do anything important. What else? And new podcast recommendation as well, because I travel to work like quite a distance each day.
Yeah.
Podcasts for most of my my listening experience, and it takes a lot for something to be regularly adopted to listen every week. So I recommend the All Killer No Filler podcast. So it's 2 comedians, Rachel Fairburn and Kiri Pritchard McLean, talking about serial killers each week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really interesting.
It just better not be better than our podcast.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's no doubt it is. Okay. But different markets. They're going for the sort of weirdos, and we're going for everyone else.
Okay.
Yeah. Different demographics. It's fine.
You're all welcome, guys. You're all welcome.
Yeah. So what was the last film you watched, Joey?
I haven't quite revealed this yet, but basically I'm working on a fairy tale, as you know, but the listeners don't. So I was like, searching through Netflix, and I decided to watch quite an old-fashioned film. It's Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer?
Yeah, based on the Mark Twain book.
Yeah. When was that released?
From 1974, but it feels older, partly because of the music, and I was reading the credits as they were coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know, not only did these brothers do the music, they also wrote the screenplay for it.
Okay.
The Sherman Brothers.
Okay. They are the ones who wrote most of the Disney films.
That's right. And should we reveal something, Luke?
What, that I've met one of the Shermans?
Yeah, I thought you met both of them.
No, I think one of them had died, unfortunately. I think they're both passed away now.
Yeah, I
certainly can't remember if it was Robert or Richard that I met, but certainly one of them. He was very old when I met him.
Yes.
In a Bella Pasta, and that's how old it was, because it was a Bella Pasta, not a Bella Italia.
Really?
Yeah, that's not the important part of the story. Yeah, no, I met him. My sister does some acting, and she was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And obviously, they wrote all the music for a lot of the Disney films, including Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah.
They came to the opening show, I think,
yeah.
and then wanted to meet the cast afterwards. And I was just hanging around as a teenager, not being very interesting.
I think that's really great.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It was cool.
They've written some of the most famous music ever.
It is really odd that I've met the people who wrote, like, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah,
it's very strange. Yeah. Very unassuming, lovely man.
Yeah. I think if I read the credits correctly, because they were going by as a few things were happening, I think it also said the orchestra was actually conducted by John Williams.
Was it? Okay.
Yes. So the Sherman Brothers wrote the music, conducted by John Williams. Yeah.
So the Shermans also gave us a little book as well. We've got a signed book from the Sherman Brothers of like their life in music and lots of photos. It's not a biography, but it's like just lots of a collection of little stories and photos of their time. Yeah, I'll show you. It's at my parents' house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I have actually seen it. I was just sort of playing along
right,
to get you to tell the story.
Yeah. All right, fine.
But yeah, it's very old-fashioned, and it's got a lot of that sort of, that sort of old-fashioned harmony music. The sort of like.
Go on, try.
I'm tempted, but I can't even do it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Picture like a really old Disney movie.
Yeah.
And it's got that sort of like lots of different harmonies, very high, almost like a quartet kind of.
Okay, like I'm trying to help you out here with an example. Like the crows in the Jungle Book.
No,
because
they're
not at all.
Because they're like a spoof of the Beatles.
Yeah.
No, it's more like it's along the lines of "When you wish upon a star."
Okay,
but lots of people sort of singing at the same time.
Right. Okay.
It's very much like that.
Quite twee.
Very twee.
Very twee.
Very
okay.
Twee. But it's an interesting film.
Very good.
Well, it's good to finally know the story because I've never read the book.
No, I've never read the book either. Yeah.
How about you? Have you seen a film this week?
I have. So the last film I saw was The Isle of Dogs. Do you know that one?
The Wes Anderson.
The Wes Anderson one. Yeah. So I was quite curious to see this film. Did you hear about sort of the backlash it had on social media after it came out?
No, I didn't.
So I was quite curious to see it. It's a stop motion animation. It's by Wes Anderson. This is the guy who did Royal Tenenbaums, Grand Budapest Hotel, things like that. And it's sparked sort of a big debate because it's set in Japan. A lot of people felt it was being quite racially insensitive.
Oh, right.
Which I don't think was his intention at all, but a lot of people took against it. So I was quite curious to see it. But it meant that I sort of approached the film very differently to the way you would do.
Yeah.
In fact, I came in looking for problems.
Yes.
Which is an odd way to look at it, but I was interested anyway. So essentially the film it's set in a sort of dystopic Japan, like 20, 30 years in the future, where this Mayor Kobayashi, who Spielberg link was based on Toshiro Mifune, who is the Japanese actor who headed the Japanese sub in 1941.
Yes, yeah.
So based on him, he has a grudge against dogs and bans all dogs who are infected with snout fever and other illnesses to Trash Island, an island off the coast of their city, to live. And it's about his ward, not his son. His ward's a kid he looks after who goes to find his dog, the male dog, back on Trash Island and try and bring him back. So that's essentially the story. It's and I did enjoy it. You can sort of see it as an allegory for immigration, maybe, but you can also. But it's mainly a story about sort of a boy and his dog. And it's really well directed. Have you seen Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Yeah. So his stop motion is sort of very frantic and frenetic. And I think they had, I think what they did is they sort of excised every other frame, so everything looked a bit more jumpy.
Yes.
Yeah, which was quite interesting. But I really like stop motion anyway. It's absolutely stunning. All the animation and the attention to detail. All the dogs speak dog, which we hear as white middle class men. No, as the typical, the Bill Murray, the Jeff Goldblums, the Ed Nortons, the typical contributors.
Yeah.
And the Japanese humans speak Japanese, which is generally not translated.
Right.
So you don't understand what they're saying. And I think that's one of the problems that there was there. It's more amusing than funny. I sort of can take or leave Wes Anderson sometimes.
Yes. I'm a little bit like, we often talk about like the world of films, don't we?
Yeah.
When we're going through this podcast and things. Like, he makes a very complete world.
Yeah.
But I always feel like I'm in it for longer than I want to be. I'm always a little bit like, stop with the quirks now.
Yeah.
About an hour in, I'm like, just tell the story now. There's too many quirks
It's like
getting
if
in
they
my
put
way.
a hipster on film.
Yeah.
It's just, it's very much like that.
It's interesting that you said it's about a boy and his dog and things, because I've heard before that a huge influence on Wes Anderson is Kes.
Okay.
And he didn't quite realise what a sort of cultural benchmark that is.
Okay.
That most Brits have seen it and relate. Basically, that is their image of Northern England.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a southerner, I can tell you it's absolutely true. With regards to sort of the cultural insensitivities, I think one of the major issues they had was the fact that because the Japanese people are speaking Japanese and you can't understand what they're saying, it makes a kind of hierarchy in the fact that you are sided with the dogs voiced by white people, and the Japanese people are very much put as others.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I can sort of see that. Obviously, like, someone like me is not going to pick up on that first time, but I can see where other people might have difficulty with that.
Yeah.
And also there's another sort of white saviour bit, like the person who sort of rebels from the humans is a white exchange student from Cincinnati who gets all the Japanese people to riot and protest, and they wouldn't have done it without her.
Oh, right.
Yeah. There's also a bit where there's a mushroom cloud explosion.
Oh.
And the city is called Megasaki.
Oh, really?
Which is, it's like calling it Shmaroshima or something like that.
Yeah. A little bit insensitive.
A little bit insensitive. I don't know if that was... surely it can't be intentional, but...
Well, nothing happens on film, like, accidentally. Even in documentaries. I mean...
Yeah.
I think some thought has gone into that, but anyway.
Yeah. So I can sort of see where it comes from. I enjoyed it. I'm sure I wouldn't have picked up on half of the sort of these potential cultural appropriation problems if I hadn't read about it beforehand. But it is probably not one of my my favourite Wes Andersons.
Yeah.
Doesn't hold light to Moonrise Kingdom.
I actually haven't seen Moonrise.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, you should definitely see it.
Okay, I will check it out.
It's one of my favourites. It's brilliant. Cool. Shall we talk about The Colour Purple a little bit?
Yes.
So have you seen this before, The Colour Purple?
Yes, I saw it when I was maybe 14 or so.
Okay. It's not something that they teach in film school or show you or anything like that,
no,
is it? Or...
it isn't, no.
No, okay.
It's just one that I sort of got from Blockbusters on
Okay.
VHS.
Yeah.
Because it was popular at the time.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not talking in 1985. When it came
exactly.
out. I'm talking still sort of 10 years later, probably 1995 when I saw it. So
it's a very different type of film that Spielberg's trying to make as well here, isn't it?
Yes.
It feels very different from him coming off Temple of Doom.
Yes. I mean, those films feel like they're marketed on Spielberg's name. Do you think that The Colour Purple needs Steven Spielberg's name associated with it? I would say not quite so much.
I don't think it needed it because so The Colour Purple is based on a book by Alice Walker that came out a few years before,
which was a bestseller.
It was a bestseller, won a Pulitzer Prize. It was high on the adaptation list for a lot of studios.
Yes. And this is produced by Quincy Jones, who is a huge name in music. So he basically could have got any dirt he wanted, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, and Alice Walker had a lot of say as well in who they wanted to get onto it.
Yeah,
and it sort of signals, I think, Spielberg's want to be a bit more serious, try something a bit more adult.
Yes,
try something very, very different to what he's done beforehand.
It's interesting that we're talking about this and that Spielberg did it after our last podcast, being so conscious of this after our last podcast.
Yeah,
episode,
absolutely.
Where we were mainly talking about issues of racism. Mm-hmm. And gender equality.
Maybe just a bit of racial insensitivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think this is not a backlash, but a
rebuttal?
Yeah.
Well,
a reaction to it.
Was this being filmed before Temple of Doom was released, though? I don't know.
I don't know. I wouldn't have imagined.
No,
so.
Maybe not. What I don't know is if Temple of Doom was seen to be racial there seemed to be so problematic at the time. It's only since looking back we can see.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
So I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think definitely he was trying to be try something a bit more serious. He bought up the rights to a lot of best-selling books of the 80s, so Empire of the Sun as well as The Colour Purple and Schindler's Ark, which turned out to be Schindler's List.
Yeah.
So he bought all of those at the time with the aim. He was also about to be a father for the first time as well.
Yeah.
So he's in his mid-30s.
Yeah, and we've talked about, because, obviously E.T. as well, that was a much more of a serious, emotionally, it's more serious.
Yeah.
than something like Indiana Jones or Jaws.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, you can see the stepping stones that led him to The Colour Purple.
Yeah. Do you think that Oscar snubs might have been a reason? Was he Oscar fishing for subjects like this?
Possibly, but doesn't this? I think I saw this in my research. Isn't this the most nominated with the least amount of wins?
Well, you've just ruined one of my questions.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so it was. But do you think he took on this topic because I think E.T. was expected to win a load of Oscars, but a lot of them went to Gandhi. He'd never won a Best Film. He'd never won a Best Director. None of the big sort of big five he'd won.
Yeah. So you think he came at this from this is going to get me the Oscar?
I potentially. I think that's what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
I think he maybe was thinking about recognition from the Academy.
Yes.
At this time in his career, he thought, I can make a blockbuster.
Yeah, I've already made some of the biggest selling movies ever.
Where do I go from here? Yeah.
Always go towards art and trying to get.
And I think he was really nervous about making this movie, wasn't he?
Yes, I read that.
Yeah.
But can't you understand why?
Well, yeah, if you've got Alice Walker, a very, who's written one of the most important bits of literature of the 80s, over your shoulder looking, going, what are you doing that? Also, being a white male director.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, directing a black female-led, black female story.
Yes. You're bound to feel a little bit like a fish out of water.
Absolutely.
Aren't you?
Yeah, completely.
I'd be very surprised if you weren't.
Yeah. So before we watch the movie, shall I give you a little bit of a quiz?
Yeah, sure. Before I answer too many of those questions.
Actually, I've done it slightly differently. I did one normal question, and then I completely revamped the format.
Oh my days!
So the first question is the standard question, and then I changed tack because I got bored. So The Colour Purple was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, but won 0. This ties the record for the most nominations but no wins, which was set by which 1977 film? Got you.
I did read this as well. I can't remember. It's something and something else, isn't it?
No. It's called The Turning Point.
The Turning Point, yeah. No, I'd never heard of it.
Okay. No, I haven't either. So the next 4 questions. So what I'm going to do is, because it's 1985, which is an absolutely smashing year for movies, I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 clues.
Yeah.
One is a director of a film, one is a star of the film, and one is a quote from the film. If you guess the film I'm talking about from the first one I say, you get 3 points. Second one is 2 points. If you need all of them, it's 1 point.
Okay.
So for this bit, you get a maximum of 12 points. And these are all movies released in 1985. Okay, the first one. This is the director, Mark L. Lester.
Mark Lester is the little boy from Oliver. But,
I don't think he's the...
Okay, I need... Next
door. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I've got it.
What is it?
Predator.
No. Number 3. This is the quote. It's for 1 point. And I will do it in an Arnold Schwarzenegger accent, which, as you can tell, is spot on. Let off some steam, Bennett.
Are you talking to you directly?
Yeah.
Is it Total Recall?
No! Commando!
Commando. No, I was never going to get
that.
that.
You remember that bit? There's a bad guy called Bennett.
I've never seen it.
He's got this awful moustache and this like sort of chainmail vest, and he gets killed by like this steam pipe putting through him.
I've seen
and
that
he goes,
clip.
Let off some steam.
I've seen that clip.
Yeah, absolute classic.
Yeah. Ironically, that's exactly how you're dressed this evening.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is. It is a Wednesday.
It's a Bennett look. It works.
Didn't we watch Commando and tried to drink every time someone died? Did we play like a drinking game? And then
possibly, and that's why I can't remember it.
Yeah, because I think there were like 140 deaths or something like that.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Number 3. So 0 points so far. The first one is the quote this time.
Okay.
You break my heart. Then again, you break everyone's heart.
One more clue.
Okay. The actor, Emilio Estevez.
The Breakfast Club?
No.
Mighty Ducks?
No. Number 1. This is the director, Joel Schumacher.
I'm not going to get it.
St. Elmo's Fire.
Never even heard of it.
You never even heard of that?
No.
Oh, it's like a classic teen movie from. It's got like a
John Hughes movie.
It's got Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like a John Hughes, and I thought it was John Hughes, which is why I put Joel Schumacher in
to try and trip me up.
To try and trick you. Next one. So this is the quote again. So what would you little maniacs like to do first? And I say that like a sexy lady.
Okay, I need another clue.
Robert Downey Jr.
Weird Science.
Yes!
Yes!
Yes! And that was directed by John Hughes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So that was the next one. 2 points. Okay. You might get this one from the quote. Has anybody seen Sam Lowry?
No, I can't get that.
Okay.
No, another
actor,
clue.
Jonathan Pryce.
Brazil?
Yes, Brazil. Yes, 4 points. So you got, you should have got Commando though. No excuse for that.
Luke is a massive 80s fan. He loves 80s music. He loves 80s films.
I do. There's a playlist on Spotify called Alternative 80s, which is absolutely banging.
Luke once drove some people. I wasn't there, but Luke once drove some people from all the way from England to France.
I sort of regret this.
With a best of 80s album
that I made myself.
That you'd made yourself.
3 volumes.
Refused to let anyone else touch the record player, and they all want to kill you still.
I mean, there were some awful songs on there. Right, shall we watch the film?
Yes.
Right, okay, we will see you when we get back. Oh, actually, important to know, with regards to streaming services, I don't think The Colour Purple's available on Netflix, Amazon Prime or Hulu, but you can either get it on YouTube.
Yes.
And we will post a link for you to rent the movie on YouTube, on Twitter.
Yes, you do have to pay to rent it. You
have to pay, and the same for Amazon Prime as well, you can rent the movie. But we'll put a link for if you are watching along with us, which we encourage you to do so. All right, we will see you and chat about the movie afterwards. Okay, bye.
Bye. Right, we're back.
We're back from watching the movie. Oh, men are shit, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think we were allowed one swear.
Yeah, okay.
That was a bit harrowing to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. It's not an easy watch.
Yeah, but great to make a fun podcast out of.
Yeah.
What did you think? Actually, no, let's start off by summarising, shall we? So we summarise the movie a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
In case you haven't seen it, but I would encourage you to go watch it. So, essentially, this is a film following a young black girl who grows up in Georgia, in the south of America, who gets separated from her sister and gets married off very, very young by an abusive father to another abusive relationship. And the film is sort of following the main character, Celie. It follows her over 30 years as she grows up in this abusive relationship. Her sister is estranged from her, and it follows sort of her struggles coming to terms with who she wants to be as a woman.
Yes.
And how, or if she can, break free from this sort of cycle of abuse that she's in.
Yes.
In this horrible marriage.
She's also estranged from her 2 children.
Yes, she's also got 2 children who she's also estranged from and get given away.
Yeah.
So, pretty harrowing stuff. Before we talk about the movie itself, because we mentioned beforehand that this is a very, very different movie for Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Because you've done sort of a film degree, how does making a movie like this, a drama, differ from making a action movie, kids movie, which he's done beforehand?
Well, I mean, I feel like, obviously, like when you're trying to make a film, it's very important to bear in mind your audience.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So I think, just to sort of like think back to where it hasn't worked for Spielberg, like 1941, I think he was indulgent and was very much like, look at me and all of this stuff. Whereas it feels like what he's got right in The Colour Purple is to not be showy himself, but sort of like just let the story tell itself.
There is restraint there.
There's restraint. Yeah. He does direct in quite a nice, unjudgmental way, I think.
Yeah.
Well, what I think I mean by that is I think he gets the point of view across very well. So it's from Celie's point of view, Whoopi Goldberg character, and she's so passive, isn't she?
She's very passive.
And what I have noticed, also just to, because it's sort of in the filmmaking aspect, I think this is Steven Spielberg's first use of voiceover, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Which then gives you the inner thought of the character. So although she's passive within a scene, there's many scenes where she seems to just
be a spectator.
Sat at the table while other violence or even confrontation of some other kind, verbal or whatever, is going on. You can at least, especially through the voiceover, imagine what she's saying.
Because it's a difficult book to adapt, isn't it? So I haven't read the book myself, but it's done in letters.
Is it?
It is, yeah. So that I think it's written in letters from Celie to either Nettie or to God, and that proves a sort of narrative problem in the fact that when you do the screenplay, you've got to, how do you adapt that?
Yes.
And I think in order to express what Celie's feeling, you've got to have a bit of voiceover in order to express something in a character that is so passive.
Yes.
And that's not to say that Whoopi Goldberg, who plays Celie, is, acting badly. She's amazing in this. But she has to express so much with so little actual dialogue.
Yes. Little dialogue, and most of her face is covered because there's the whole thing about her having hands over her mouth.
Yeah, she's got to do so much with her eyes. And she does a remarkable job, especially for a first film.
Yeah, it's incredible to think it's her first film.
Yeah. Did you like the film?
That's a good question, because I found myself getting, I would say, 3/4 of the way through, and I found myself writing down the question, why do you think people like this film? Why do people want to sit down and watch this film?
Yeah.
And I think if you know the subject, if you know that this is what you're going to be watching, it's difficult to find yourself in a position in your day to be like, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch this really harrowing film.
Yes.
But I actually think it's quite an easy question to answer, because it feels like the horrendous lows that the characters go through, it doesn't take much to feel like a huge high when things start going well.
Sure.
Or her character starts to burst through the oppression.
Yeah.
I can't think of another film where you feel so elated just by a smile.
Yes.
It's the smallest of things, and we all take smiling for granted.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's her really nice big smile is revealed. When she's there with Suge Avery. And, it finally reveals her smile. And I felt it was as freeing as that feeling when Elliot on his bike, and you have the sweep of the John Williams music and he goes up into the skies. It felt as good as that.
Okay.
And simply all it was a close-up of her face. So she's had her hands pulled away from her face finally, and she smiles.
And I think that's the key Spielberg bit, isn't it? I think a different director could have taken this story very, very differently. Also a very dark avenue.
Yes.
It could have been very, very oppressive, very, very small. But in those moments, and there's quite a few of them, when things are very, very open, you have lots of visual and colour, you have the music sort of brings it up to almost like Disney levels of saccharine sweetness.
Yes.
And that, I felt that was a bit incongruous to the actual subject matter.
Yeah.
And this is a horrible story of a woman in an multiple abusive relationships.
Yeah.
And then the little the music lifts, and it's like little bluebirds are coming to put the washing on the line, and it's all sickly sweet.
Yeah.
And that felt wrong to me.
Yeah. Apparently Alice Walker, the author, absolutely did not like the beginning, because it begins on quite a light tone.
Yes.
It gets dark very quickly, but begins, if you remember, you have the credits, and then it's the shot of the purple flowers.
Yes.
And it comes up, and we see Celia and her sister sort of dancing or running through the fields and that sort of thing, and that's where they develop the sort of hand signals and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently Alice Walker was not a fan of that.
And also during that beginning bit, Nettie and Celia are talking. They're playing patty cakes, aren't they?
Yes, yeah.
And they're talking about sexual abuse while playing patty cakes.
Yes.
And that it just
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a stylistic choice or,
but
it's felt really weird.
It did feel really weird, because then the next thing is you have the dad turn up at the side of the field and then just calls her ugly and.
Yes.
All this stuff. So even if there was some joy in it, it's most definitely killed at that moment.
Yeah.
And then that's when the voiceover starts coming in, isn't it? This is going to be your protagonist, and you're hearing very much from her point of view and her angle on it. And she says it in such a matter-of-fact way about what her father did to her.
I think that works.
But it does work.
It's the norm for her, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is awful, but it's just normality. She hasn't known anything else.
Yeah.
And she still gets that joy from being with Nettie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did the voiceover bother you? Because sometimes voiceovers can sometimes be seen as being a bit of a cop-out narrative device, can't they?
Yes, definitely. It's sort of seen as a cheap way, if you see what I mean, as to how to tell a story. Basically, because when you're filming, all you're getting is you're making each piece of a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And often when the whole thing does not fit together.
Yeah.
What do you do to make the whole thing cohesive? You had a voiceover, and suddenly you've got a montagey movie which does at least make sense.
But a lot of people would say you should show, not tell.
Yes, but what Spielberg does well in this movie is the voiceover is the inner thoughts of the character. The voiceover doesn't need to be there. It would still be a great film without it. So it's not exposition. Yeah, that's the extra bit which voiceover can add.
True.
And I quite liked it in this movie.
Yeah, no, it did not bother me in this movie at all.
Considering it's his first use of it, I think he did it well.
Yeah. Shall we talk about, we mentioned this beforehand briefly, that this being a bit of a palate cleanser compared to some of the gender and race issues of Temple of Doom. The fact that this is a...
Yes, it's very interesting you call it like a palate cleanser because it's very much about race. It's still on topic.
What I mean is palate cleanser. I don't mean like, oh, put this down just to make you feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had any questions about, oh, can Spielberg, does he put women in his films? Is there any? How does he deal with race? To come and then film The Colour Purple after that.
Yeah.
It sort of puts it to bed a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I do think there are. Did you hear that thing Elizabeth Banks said?
No.
The actress. She I think she was complaining while accepting an award. This was on Twitter last week.
Oh, right.
Accepting an award, calling out Steven Spielberg for not using any females in any lead roles. And then someone from the audience shouted out The Colour Purple.
Yeah.
She's like, no, actually that wasn't directed by Steven Spielberg. And she went, yeah, it was. No, I think you'll find it wasn't. I think it was just... And then she issued a public apology on Twitter afterwards saying, yeah, I got that wrong. I'm really sorry.
Oh, no.
But this is one of the very few where there is a female lead character. But
it's surprising he hasn't done it again because he does do it well.
Yeah.
When you watch that film, you do not think the person in charge of this production is a middle-class white man.
Yeah.
Do you?
I think it's difficult to know. I think it's very difficult to know because I think you'll have to look at, let's say, some of the other. I think other directors would have dealt with it differently.
Yeah.
I think you can tell it's Spielberg.
You can actually,
but I think, let's say, Spike Lee. That would be an angry film. That would be a shout out, the injustice to the rooftop.
I think it's quite nice in a way that it is Spielberg because it could be said. Let's say Spike Lee did direct this.
Mm-hmm.
It could be said that it would be marketed as like a black director making a black film.
Yes.
Which means it's trying to get to a black audience.
Yes.
Whereas Spielberg can reach everyone.
Yeah, that is true.
He as a middle-class white man has brought that issue to the fore.
As
a spokesman, as a person who has a megaphone who can highlight issues.
Yeah, he does have that He does have that universality, doesn't he? Because he was one of the biggest filmmakers. Well, still is one of the biggest filmmakers in the world. I guess that's true.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Alice Walker, agreed to go with Steven Spielberg in the first place. Because I know she had reservations.
Yeah.
But it was actually from watching Duel and Sugarland Express that she said, no, this man can do drama.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I actually saw a little interview with Steven Spielberg, and he said, oh, this is my first sort of attempt at drama, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, it's not. Sugarland Express is not a comedy. Sugarland Express is a proper drama.
Is it? Yeah, absolutely.
And he did it quite well. So
a character-driven drama, isn't it? Yeah. True. Yeah.
Mainly from a female's point of view, I would say.
That is true, yeah.
I would say Goldie Hawn is much more prevalent, much more at the fore than the husband or the policeman. Yeah. One of the most Spielbergy moments, which I didn't like, as I felt it clashed with the actual story. Yeah. Did not like it where they, towards the end, they hear the gospel choir. Yeah. And they all move along the lake, and then they all start singing in the chapel.
That whole subplot with Shug Avery and her father, the priest, cut it.
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. It felt really weird.
And they were all there, sort of bopping and singing, and I was like, "This feels really out of place."
Yeah.
You're trying to sugarcoat something, which we don't really care about, to be honest, because she's not our main character.
No, exactly. Yeah, I didn't need to know that at all.
Yeah.
Shug Avery needs a bit of mystery to her. Having that, didn't add anything at all.
It felt like a scene within a film and not the story as I had been told up until that point.
Exactly, and also the whole thing had like 5 endings, and this came as another one of those. It's just like, come on, move on. It's a long story.
It didn't progress anything. No. So personally, that's one thing I particularly didn't like.
Yeah.
Which is one of the lighter moments as well, but it just didn't have its place.
We mentioned a bit about Whoopi Goldberg's performance.
Oh yes.
So this is her first major film role, which is remarkable as well, considering that she in real life is sort of a larger than life.
Yes, she's a
comedian.
Yeah.
Who as her audition, I think she did some of her comedy. He did one of her stand-up sets for Alice Walker, Steven Spielberg, Kathy Kennedy, and Frank Marshall, in which she did apparently a skit where she was playing E.T. but was stoned in San Francisco.
Yeah, I read that too.
Which I quite liked. And then they gave her the role. I think Whoopi Goldberg said, I love the book, I will do anything in this movie. Yeah. But thought she might be cast as Sophia, Oprah Winfrey's character.
Right.
But she said, I will do anything in this movie. But ended up getting the main role of Celie, and she's remarkable in it. When you think that this is the most larger-than-life person who's playing someone so passive and broken.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. I've not seen her do that sort of performance since.
No, because there's a chance she could be typecast as always, sort of shy and introverted characters.
Yeah, but everything else I've seen her in is playing her more to her actual personality.
Yeah. There's risky in her part, is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another producer could just be like, "Yep, she's perfect," and always just have her play the quiet people.
Yeah. Shall we talk about Danny Glover? Because this is one of his first films as well.
He's very young in it. He's almost unrecognisable. Danny Glover.
He plays. If you haven't seen it, Danny Glover plays Ceelie's husband, who starts off by eyeing up the girls when they're very, very young. In church.
It starts very light. They're sort of just giggling because he's a man just sort of smiling at them and things, but then
it's very, very creepy.
It turns very dark.
It does turn very dark. And that scene with the horse when he's sort of pursuing Nettie, trying to assault her.
I would say that was the worst.
That was the worst one,
moment.
where he's playing it all.
Yeah.
Trying to be all. He's smiling, and then he takes her into the bushes, and very much like Spielberg's Disney portrayal of violence, it's off scene, and you sort of just hear, some screams and some no's, and then she manages to get away and runs off.
The framing of those shots is really, really good, because there's shots where you see Nettie run on one side of the trees, and then the framing of her is you often just see like the sort of mane of the horse.
Yes.
And so it's as if you're seeing all of that power rushing towards her.
Okay,
all of that sort of sexual energy. Yeah. I thought it was absolutely horrendous, that scene. Yeah, no, it was really uncomfortable to watch. That was the main scene where I was really thinking, like, honestly, why is this appealing?
Why do I want to watch a paedophile assault a girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrendous. But then as Danny Glover's character gets a bit older and Celie gets a bit older, towards the end he almost gets played as more of a sympathetic character.
Yeah, he does.
Which I had trouble with, especially at the end.
He was played more for sympathy, but I didn't give him the sympathy.
No, I didn't. But I wonder whether it was the intention to go, oh, look at him, all lonely. He did that one nice thing for Nettie by, paying the immigration whatever fee to get them to come back over from Africa.
Yeah.
Which was the one nice thing. But I don't know if they were trying to say, that sort of excuses all the...
No, he wasn't worthy of sympathy.
No.
Basically, I watched those final scenes just thinking you deserve to be alone.
Yeah, exactly. I sort of saw it, he's a pathetic character.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you thought that, because...
who could do nothing for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Which then... So while we're talking about Danny Glover, what do you think of the men in this film?
They're all awful.
They are all unsympathetic and incredibly awful. They don't really have any redeeming features.
None of them do.
No. Which is a problem with it, I think.
All of them beat a woman during the film. All of the main characters,
and even Harpo.
Yeah.
Who you think he seems fine with the situation of the fact that his wife is the more dominant of the pair.
Yeah.
Even he is suddenly a bit like, I don't like this setup.
Yeah.
And attempts to hit her. Obviously, it backfires.
Yeah.
It's as if he's itching to get to the point where he can beat Oprah Winfrey.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, well, it seems like you're representing men as they're left to their own devices.
Mm-hmm.
They all want to fight, rape, be abusive, show dominance all the time.
Yeah.
Which, I don't want to say it's unrealistic, but it's certainly not everyone's No,
I know, and I know this
mindset.
This reason is why there's a bit of a problem with some black activists had a lot of problem with the movie because of their representation of black men as, being abusive.
Yes.
So it did have some controversy around its time of release. So yes, I found it was an issue, but I don't think we can take too much umbrage with how men are portrayed in this film because I don't really know how I feel about it. How do you feel about how men are portrayed? I don't think it elicits a particular reaction in me at all. It just said, that's how the men are in this film.
Yeah. I think it's quite important to highlight that because the problem I have with certain critiques of movies is let's say if we look at Temple of Doom as a standalone movie, people could say, based on that film, women are materialistic and superficial and all of that stuff. Whereas that's absolutely not the case. That's not women, that's Willie, that's that character.
Yes, sure.
And there's a problem with critiquing that some people think a particular character represents that person's stance on every man or every woman.
Yeah.
It's not. It's that character.
Yeah.
And so we follow, particularly those three main characters, like Danny Glover, his dad, and his son.
Yeah.
And they all happen to beat their wife and be abusive and things. Which does not necessarily mean Alice Walker hates all men.
No.
But just talking about this as a film, the men do not have the amount of depth that the female characters
No, I think
do.
But I think that's the point of the whole thing.
Yes.
The point is the men are cursory characters in Seeley's story.
Yes.
And they are the antagonists to Seeley's, journey.
Yeah.
They are the people, the obstacles she has to overcome.
Yes, they are the antagonists, aren't
they?
they?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I completely, I do agree that this is not how Spielberg or Alice Walker sees all men or all black men at all. It's just there's a group of just awful people that are in this movie.
Yeah.
So and if you were saying as well that Seeley is represented as being very passive, and Sophia is a really good contrast to that.
Yeah, she is.
This is the character played by Oprah Winfrey, which is great seeing Oprah in a film.
Yeah, it's her first film too.
Yeah. So who is a woman who's got agency, knows her own mind, likes punching people. I really liked it when she punched Squeak.
Yeah.
In that bar fight.
Yeah.
Punched her, she just flies off through this hole in the floor.
Yeah, there's some really great.
That's a great little comedy moment.
Transitions between scenes as well, where Sophia's husband Harpo asks Seeley, how should I tame her or something, and she says, beat her because that's all she's ever known.
Yeah.
And then you instantly cut to the next scene, and he's got a black eye.
Yes.
And he's there talking to his dad, saying, "It was a mule," whatever it was.
But it's like those comedy moments, which there's quite a few of those little those quick transitions or those slapstick comedy moments. They again in the film that's so tragic and a film that's so. It feels a bit weird.
Yes.
It feels a bit incongruous, I found.
It's like I am laughing, but at the end of the day, he was trying to beat her.
Yeah, exactly.
And she reacted.
Should this be played for laughs?
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
is
exactly
a bit uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah. You mentioned Harpo. Harpo is Oprah backwards.
Yes, it's the name of her production company.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. That is good. Let's talk about lesbians.
Okay.
So, in the book, Seeley's relationship with Shug is a bit more graphic.
Yes.
So there are love scenes. There is a much more of a lesbian relationship.
Yeah.
That evolves a bit more love story that evolves between the two.
I've heard that Spielberg intentionally at the time played down the lesbian relationship.
Yeah.
But now regrets the extent that he did.
Yeah.
I think in the overall tone of the movie,
yeah,
which is basically the job of the director, actually. Basically every technician on a film could do their job without the director.
Yeah.
It's the director's job to sort of get the overarching tone of each scene and make sure they flow into each other.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he got wrong in 1941, because it was all just mania.
Yeah.
And then, other film directors, not Spielberg really, he's very good at it, but when you say a film's too slow, they just haven't got the roller coaster right. They haven't got the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
So Spielberg apparently looks back now and thinks he definitely would go further with the lesbian scenes.
I think it needed it.
Do you?
I do.
I think it was there enough for me.
No, because Seeley is so passive, and because Seeley is so scared the entire time, you can tell, and it's the arrival of Shug that really brings her out of her shell.
Yeah.
From there, nothing much changes until the outburst. And she suddenly has this outburst over a dinner table going, calling out Danny Glover's character, saying, I will not take this anymore, I'm mad as hell, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That for me came out of nowhere.
Yeah, me too.
Why then? I didn't understand the journey between her being passive and scared to her being strong. And I felt if you had a clear love story or more of the relationship between her and Shug, you see her falling in love, you see her change over time, that earns that moment.
Yes. Or they could have even got away with it if they showed an extra shot of she sat directly opposite Oprah Winfrey, isn't she?
Yeah.
If she just looked at her, because at that moment that character's been completely
broken,
hasn't she?
Yeah.
Hunched over, eyes down.
Yeah.
It just needed another moment, and you should have been able to Yeah, possibly what I would do if I was to able to sort of re-edit it, would have a shot of Whoopi Goldberg.
I was the biggest filmmaker in the world. I
would have a shot of Whoopi Goldberg, look directly at her, sort of see on her face that she's making an assessment.
Yeah.
And realise that she didn't want to end up that way. To see such a powerful woman broken down and then burst out would be enough
potentially
for me. But that is missing.
I think that love story would have been a good way of making her earn that moment.
Yeah.
But then again, so they do share a kiss on screen. Remember, this is 1985.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen much homosexual relationships depicted on film.
Yeah, and it does imply that more happened because it tracks aside to,
to the open fire.
It's not an open fire; it's a wind chime, isn't it?
Yeah. Marvin Gaye's "Sexual Healing" is in the background. Yeah.
So it does imply that more happened.
But then again, yeah, I guess it is 1985. It's remarkable to think that we didn't even get the first gay lesbian kiss on TV until Brookside in the 90s, did we?
That's true.
Yeah. So, and this predates that by about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems bonkers now that it was even an issue, but I guess it may have been.
Yeah, but it's not a shocking moment. And I don't believe even in 1985 it was a shocking moment.
Okay.
It was what it's supposed to be, a catharsis.
Do you think it was? I don't know. I really can't say if it was a shocking moment at all.
It's certainly not shocking now.
No, it's not shocking now. But because of all I'm just thinking of that that gay kiss on Brookside, of all the media coverage it had. Like, people found it shocking.
Yeah.
And to have that 10 years before that in a film, where two black leads are kissing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of boundary crossing. There's a lot of
That's true.
There's a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
Which haven't been represented on film. What do you think of Shug Avery? They were going to cast was it Diana Ross or Tina Turner in the role?
Oh yes, I heard that Tina Turner had been asked. Yeah,
it just wouldn't work at all.
No, it would have been distracting, I think.
Yeah, especially if she cracked out Simply the Best instead of that serenade.
Yeah,
Nutbush City Limits.
No, she's a good character. She's certainly like a bit of relief from what we've seen in all the other scenes before and what have you.
Yeah,
but again, it's all underlined by this sort of hint of sadness. Like, okay, it's funny to see Danny Glover not being able to work the stove and stuff, but he's doing it to cheat on his wife.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's great that Celie loves her and she's found someone that she can connect with, but it's her husband's lover.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I guess it is that passiveness that makes her survive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's how she's, ends up having her happy ending. It's because of her being passive for that long. I mean, as soon as you see Sophia stand up to the mayor who wanted her to be his maid.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's changed her, and she went into prison for that, So Celie seems to know how she needs to live in this awful world that she's in.
Yeah, and of course it's with Shug Avery that we finally see Celie smile.
Yeah,
which I mentioned before. I actually brought like a little tear to my eye.
That was one of my favourite scenes, actually.
Yeah. Me too. I think that was shot with a slightly wide-angle lens because it seemed like the biggest smile ever.
It's a huge smile, isn't it?
I think the camera lens is fairly close to her, and say on a wide-angle lens. And then can you imagine being in the cinema? It would seem like the biggest smile ever. But just really, really well shot, I thought. Yeah, that was really good. A nice tender moment. Did you hear how sort of Spielberg directed Whoopi Goldberg? Yes, I did hear in a little. I quite enjoyed it because I think this sort of highlights how this was a very new experience for him directing drama. Yeah. That how do you sort of evoke that sort of emotion that's needed? So essentially, he told Whoopi Goldberg, who's a film buff, to act like this character in this movie. Yeah, I heard that. And next one, you act like this character in this movie. For this scene. Yeah. And because Whoopi Goldberg had seen all these films, she knew exactly what the director wanted. Yeah. Rather than saying, now I really want you to, express yourself, you're feeling a great weight of emotion, you're sad, this has happened. Just go, act like whoever and what. Yeah. I think that's it's a great shorthand so you can get to where you need to really quickly. And if you've seen Steven Spielberg in interviews, he does that. He often says, I wanted this character to be like this character from this movie. Yeah. Yeah, that's very typical, isn't it? Yeah. He's just a very the inner film geek in Steven Spielberg comes out in interviews, so you can imagine he's exactly like that on set. I really liked the shaving scenes Yes.
I thought they were really quite tense.
Yes,
really
tension.
Good. Because it's a motif that they keep on coming back to of when Celie's shaving Danny Glover.
Yes.
Because it's the moment where she has a bit of power over him.
Yes.
And is she ever going to take it? Is she ever going to,
Yeah. She certainly recognises it, doesn't she?
Yeah, she knows
her
it.
moment of power.
Exactly. But he's almost tempting her with it as well.
Yeah, he is, weirdly, isn't he?
Yeah. Which is another sort of power struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought they were done really well.
Yeah. I suppose from his point of view, it's like a sort of, come on then.
It's like, you cut me and I'll kill you. Yeah.
It's a very common, you mentioned that, it's a motif or whatever. This film is full of motifs. Have you noticed? Like, basically everything that's set up, then, as an iteration, then sort of, the object itself might not necessarily change. But for example, the letterbox. So
yes.
It begins when she first moves into the house. Don't touch that letterbox.
Yeah.
And then she keeps looking at it, and he gets various letters throughout the thing, and he comes across as really nice to the postman in the middle iteration, and then at the end, you see his lonely letterbox where no one's writing to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's lots of little things which are set up and then reiterated and then paid off at the end. It seems a lot of stuff is structured that way. Yeah. No, definitely. I really liked also Shug's song that she sings to Celie. Oh yeah, that's really nice.
The little blues song.
She dedicates it to her.
Yeah. No, I really like that scene.
And all the heads sort of turn towards her.
Yeah.
Way to make her feel special.
Yeah. And I was so angry. What made me really angry? Actually, the angriest I was in the film.
Yeah.
Not that I was comparing that this is more traumatic than some of the other horrific stuff we see, but one that made me really angry is where the mayor's wife, Miss Millie, drops Oprah Winfrey's character off for Christmas in her family, then can't operate the car, is going back and forth the entire time, and then forces Oprah Winfrey, Sophia, to come back with her instead of spending Christmas with her family because of her selfishness.
Yes.
And her absolute awfulness. She made me so angry, that woman.
Yeah, she's certainly...
she's certainly a one, isn't she?
Yeah, she's not worthy of sympathy, that one.
Another thing is that... So, also, when Celie and Nettie get reunited, they're mouth kissers as sisters.
Yeah.
Which is odd, but I guess some families are like that. There's always one family at school. No, but there was. There was always one family at school. Joey's just going no now. Where like the daughter would kiss the I'm not naming any names. Would like kiss the dad on the lips, and seem to say we're mouth kissers, and that'd be an acceptable reason for why that was happening. No, you never had a family like that at school. Were you that family? No. Okay.
I think the kiss between Celia and her sister was done because it shows that tenderness can come from not just violence. From
well, that's the much more mature way of looking at it, isn't it, Joey?
Right. Some filmmaking bits that I thought were done really well.
Yes.
Some of the cross-cutting he has done really well.
Can you explain a little bit about what cross-cutting is?
Yes. Let's say it's where you can be in multiple locations at the same time to build tension.
Okay.
So let's say if it's a fox hunt, let's say. So you could have a shot of a fox just going about its business.
Yeah.
You then cross-cut to the riders on their horses.
Yeah.
You cut back to the fox.
Yeah.
Its ears prick up as if something's coming.
Sure.
You cut back to the same scene, but maybe the shots of the dogs and their legs and their teeth.
Yeah.
Cut back to the fox, he starts to run. Cut back to the other people, they're getting closer.
Yeah.
It's very good for like things meeting.
Yes, sure.
Things getting closer.
Is it like that bit in the Africa scenes?
But then it can also be used for exactly that. Yeah. That is more like they're not coming closer.
Two things are mirroring each other in different locations.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's another thing that it can do. It can sort of like bind you by... It can give you that sense of sort of binding by the cosmos and not necessarily by a tactile thing. They don't have to touch to have that moment. Okay.
So for the listener, these are the scenes where Celie's experiences in America and Nettie's experiences in Africa are very much being comparable to each other.
Yes. So you would say, as a filmmaker, I want to cross-cut between America and Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. For the effect that what's happening culturally in Africa is sort of mirroring or not.
Yes.
In America.
Yeah, and I wrote down that was actually one of my favourite sort of. I thought I was done really well.
Yeah,
I was really.
Yeah, he does that quite a lot, and to a lesser extent, it's not as obvious as that, but it also really shows the difference between men and women within scenes. So you have Harpo and Danny Glover.
Yeah. Talking
about the sort of being the alpha male of the house, etc.
Yeah.
Cross-cut with, Sophia and Celie.
Yeah.
I think they're doing it while they're planting some seeds or something.
Yeah.
But they're talking about the dynamic and, why did you tell Harpo to hit me?
Yes,
She's confronting her about that.
Yeah.
And then you're getting the reasons at the same time as why she said it, and you're getting Danny Glover and Harpo's perspective.
That makes sense.
At the same time. And it's just really interesting because they obviously completely contradict each other.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, that was done really well.
So all of that cross-cutting stuff that we were just talking about, a lot of that comes from Russian cinema.
Okay.
Battleship Potemkin is probably one of the most famous examples of it.
Yeah, I don't know much about Russian.
So
I don't know anything about Russian cinema.
So I don't know a huge amount, to be honest, but Battleship Potemkin is certainly one that is always screened as examples of great cross-cutting and editing. So, for example, you might have a shot of soldiers with their guns and their uniforms walking across a field.
Yeah.
That might then be cross-cut with a slaughterhouse and that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And the overall message that you obviously you just sort of observe and take in all of these images flashing at you. You just get the feeling, okay, so what the filmmaker is trying to get across is these soldiers are lambs to the slaughter.
Yes, yeah.
So it's all coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So soldiers, a picture of a lamb, and then a picture of a slaughter.
Yeah. Just briefly about the music. So, this is not a John Williams score.
No, it's Quincy Jones' score, isn't it? So, he was the guy who produced it,
yes.
And he wrote the score for this. Did you feel the main riff, which comes back, sounds like the Jurassic Park?
That's exactly what I've got
Did
in my notes.
Did you write that down as well?
Yeah.
It's the da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then it changes a little bit at the end, but...
That's exactly what I've got written down.
I'm glad, because I noticed that as well. High five.
That was hand slap you just heard.
Yeah, because I haven't seen that written down anywhere.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's like my third note or something.
Yeah.
There's a bit where she's mopping, and I was like, the mop scene is to the music of Jurassic Park.
Yeah. And that's the main thrill that comes back, the main motif that comes back again and again and again.
Yeah.
I know the Quincy Jones' score got a lot of flack afterwards because it was so saccharine.
It's like a John Williams score.
No, I think it's different though.
You think it's sweeter?
I think that main riff is nice. It's during all the other bits where awful stuff is happening, and then you get these elated music. What I talked about earlier was those bluebirds, like a zippity doodah sort of thing, and it's so twee. I found it distracting, and I usually don't notice the score, but
that's true. I did notice it. Yeah,
but I really noticed it. It just it signposts the way that you should be definitely feeling really happy about this. You should be definitely feeling sad about this. Sometimes that's heavy signposting is even in the wrong direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that you wrote down Jurassic Park as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the patty cakes thing that she does with her sisters, that also reminded me, do you remember there's a hand gesture in Hook where they wiggle their fingers underneath their chin?
You know what? I can't remember that.
Oh, really? That's another sort of bonding, non-verbal communication between the Lost Boys and Peter.
Yeah, okay. We'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that, but that's something that I thought, that's
another link. Yeah.
So another filmmaking reference that I think Spielberg is quite a big David Lean fan.
Yes.
Who directed most famously Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very good, David Lean, at transitioning from one scene to another. So I
know exactly what you mean, because this felt like it could have been directed by David Lean.
Yeah. So there is a bit in The Bridge on the River Kwai.
Yeah.
Where two characters turn and look at the sun.
Yeah.
And then from that sun shot that we have, William Holden's head pops up to block the sun. And then we're into the next scene.
Yes, yeah.
We actually see the same thing in Jaws.
Yeah.
Not identically.
Yeah.
But there's a bit where Richard Dreyfuss, in a close-up, shouts to Brody, "Do you have any better ideas?"
Yeah.
And then it instantly cuts to a close-up of Brody, but then as the camera pulls back, we see they're putting the cage together.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to lower him in and they're going to do the plan.
Yeah. To be fair, it does make sense, doesn't it? Because we've said Spielberg, unfamiliar with this type of film, is going to be a great borrower, isn't he? He's going to borrow from his heroes. He's going to borrow heavily from David Lean, a much more dramatic director, and his tropes. So completely makes sense with someone of his film knowledge that he's going to borrow from the greats.
Yes.
Yeah.
His movie brat experience.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, did you like it?
I did. As I say, or like I said at the beginning, it's very difficult to find the day where you sit down and start watching this film.
Yeah.
Because if you're having a good day, you don't want to be pulled down by it.
Yeah.
If you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day anyway and you don't want to make yourself feel worse.
Yes.
So, as an audience member, going about their life...
Who is this for?
Who is this for?
Yeah.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah. I don't know, is the honest answer.
It's not an enjoyable watch.
Yeah.
The highs are really good because the darkness is so dark.
Yeah. I feel I know exactly what you mean. And it's not that I didn't enjoy the film. I thought it was a well-made film. But I think it is a little bit too twee in places. And I can't see myself sort of sitting down and watching this again, like you said.
Yeah.
And also, probably the first of his slavery trilogy, as I'm going to call it.
Slavery trilogy?
Well, you know, he's done this, then Amistad, then Lincoln.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
There you go. He's done an unofficial slavery trilogy. Who heard it here first?
Quadrilogy. Don't forget Temple of Doom.
Definitely, yeah, yes, true. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Big Boat Podcast. We've got that the Spielberg tournament going on at the moment where you vote for your favourite. So check in on Twitter every couple of days and we'll have a new one for you to vote for. You can email us on thebiggerboatpodcast@gmail.com. And if you could give us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would be really good to help boost our podcast a little bit.
Yes, thank you in advance.
Thank you in advance for that. So we'll see you in a week's time. See you later. Bye.
Bye.